Okay, we're live, Dawn.
Hey!
And is the meeting up on here too?
Yes.
Oh, there we are. Oh, is that gonna fall? Here, why don't you start
Sure.
intro while I make sure the phone's not gonna fall.
Hey, Zalo friends. Dr. Graves and I here. We wanted to go over our Keto Success Program virtually. We were initially going to hold the meeting in person, but in light of the circumstances, we're going to go ahead and go virtual, which seems to be the trend now. So our Keto Success Program was developed after Dr. Graves and I were sharing stories about the success we've had as individuals and how I easily dropped 10 pounds without trying. And then us both being athletes, swap stories about how we could easily become fat adapted and run half marathons, mountain bike. And so we thought we'd share a program with you based on our experience, and I'll let Dr. Graves introduce himself.
Thank you. Exciting. So now we got the technical issues sort of resolved. This is the first go of it, so we'll make some adjustments if needed. But I'd like to thank you for watching this and those that might be watching live. As Dawn mentioned, we're both inspired about what the ketogenic diet has been able to do, not only for us, but for our patients and clients. And so I'm a naturopathic doctor, and I've been doing this for quite a long time, but about 5 years ago, I got introduced to the ketogenic diet more for, I guess, in an accessible form that can really help more and more people. And so we're going to talk about that and kind of the basics of what that keto diet looks like. And thankfully today, the difference between prior to say 5, 6, 7 years ago is that now with the ketogenic diet, there are some supportive things that we didn't have back then, including exogenous ketones, understanding how coconut oil and functional fats work. You can target and use certain dietary things that are going to help you be able to stick with it. Over the years, these last 5 years especially, I've seen a lot of great programs come out and some helpful things. But today, these days, we're seeing a lot of diet plans, the keto diet plans, that are actually off base and actually won't be very healthy to do that. And so Dawn and I felt there was a great need to help people access this incredible diet and also be able to succeed, because anyone who has tried diet plans and given up, you know what that's like, and it's hard to stick with that. So we're going to cover some stuff. Now, in light of what's going on currently, we're doing a virtual class, mainly because we have the COVID infection issue going on, and we're limiting group gatherings. So we'll touch on that a little bit, and I'm actually excited to say we're going to discuss a little bit about how ketones and the ketogenic diet affect overall immunity and the viral possibilities of infection. And we can touch on maybe a few other things related to immune health. So, intro to keto. I guess I'll just use my whiteboard that
Perfect.
we have set up here. So, by now, most people have probably heard of the keto diet, but I want to define it in basic terms so that if you haven't heard of it and haven't investigated exactly what it means, you understand. The keto diet, the word keto comes from the word ketogenic or ketones. These are molecules that are found naturally in the body that are used as energy. We don't hear much about them. In fact, in medicine and in health, we only heard about them in the cases of diabetes, and it was a bad thing. We are not talking about the ketones that diabetics are worried about. That's a whole different thing. It's a whole nother discussion. We're never at risk for this ketoacidosis, as it's called, when we do a ketogenic diet. You could take ketones, supplement that with them, and you'll never be at risk for that. So I'll just leave that aside. What we're talking about is a natural state where the body begins to burn fat for its energy. And in that process, it creates these molecules called ketones, and those get burned in the mitochondria to create energy. Now, it's interesting that when we burn ketones for energy, it's not just, say, losing fat or burning fat. There's a whole host of health benefits that happen at the same time. In a way, it mimics fasting. We know when we fast, of course, you could lose weight. But aside from the struggle to do a fast because of low energy, and people get nauseous, and there's all those kinds of issues. But it does have benefits like improving brain health, reduces inflammation. People do say if you can go long enough with a fast, you can get better mental clarity. That's long been known, and it has been shown that people live longer who do engage in fasting. Now, fasting is a very hard thing to do regularly. And what I like about the ketogenic diet is it mimics fasting. In fact, when you become adapted to doing the diet, you will actually be able to fast more easily, and it just starts to happen. Fasting, though, often doesn't mean for days, it means for hours extra. Yeah. You eat less during the day or less hours, and you start to get those benefits. So we are not saying that you don't eat some forms of food, some foods that give you glucose. It's just that you're primarily using higher proportions of fat and lower proportions of carbohydrates. And so I'll define specifically those levels are typically somewhere, and this, by the way, is what other diet programs, the keto diet programs that I think are inaccurate, this is where they fall short, is that they are recommending a high protein diet and not a high fat diet. So you need to be getting at least close to 70% or more of your calories from fats. Your carbohydrates need to be below 10% in most cases. We're not looking for zero. You're not on a 100% diet of fat. You're not at 0% carbohydrates. It's just we're shifting it.
And then what about people's concerns with like cholesterol? Because we've been taught that if we eat a high fat diet, it affects our cholesterol and we have a heart attack, and that's not what we're trying to do here.
Right. So as you asked me that question,
Yeah.
I immediately thought of the documentary I watched last night,
Yeah.
and a book. So let me reference them. Now, I won't go into, I'll give you sort of the summary of what my professional opinion and those of a number of people, this is not like something that should be controversial anymore because of the data. It's really sad that our schools and our government and the official documents and everything that guides us on nutrition in this country is based on a low-fat, low-cholesterol philosophy that has been completely disproved. So back when this was they came up with this based on data that was misinterpreted and very limited, and since then there's really overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Right. And all you have to do is look around at our population. Is heart disease lower? Are people healthier? And a lot of them are following that advice because a lot of food that's available is low fat, and people are trying and following all those recommendations, and they're not healthier. So the documentary I watched last night, it's available on Amazon Prime, or you can find it somewhere else perhaps, but it's just called Fat documentary. And I can't remember the guy who produced it. He was a model, and he showed up on TV. He was on the Oprah show, and he was a personal trainer and athlete. He just happens to be the guy that got passionate enough to put a documentary together. But he brings in a lot of those people that I respect quite a bit. So the book, The Big Fat Surprise by Nina Teicholz, it's an odd spelling last name, and we could link it in the notes for those people interested. She, in fact, is interviewed in the documentary, and her book, it's very well written. It completely documents all this, and she's not the only one. So it is now, in fact, I've seen it personally in lab proven results in patients that when they eat lots more fat, including saturated fat and cholesterol, their cholesterol and heart risks drop on their blood panels. It's just, there's no question anymore. So
okay, thank you.
Hope I answered that.
Yeah, totally.
Eat more fat, your fat improves in your blood.
Right.
And there's a lot of biochemistry to that. Once you understand the basics, it starts to make sense.
And then we need fat for hormones, right?
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so cholesterol, I guess touching on that just for a second, is that cholesterol is not something bad that's like in food. Personally, I think concentrated sugar is truly bad in food. There's no health benefit by eating concentrated forms of sugar. And in fact, when you're getting those calories from fats, you really don't need simple sugars at all. The cholesterol that's in food is actually nourishing. It's antioxidant effects. It helps to build nerve cells and brain cells. Our bodies are made up of tons of cholesterol that we vitally need. It's a precursor to hormones like testosterone, estrogen, and cortisol. And one little note on that too, it's interesting to, and they reference this repeatedly in the video, that when you eat cholesterol, like from eggs or a slice of steak or whatever it is, that cholesterol is not what shows up in the blood really anyway. Most of the cholesterol in your blood is from your liver. So you make it. So a vegan who eats zero cholesterol could have very high cholesterol because his liver is making it. In fact, the higher carbohydrate intake you eat, in general, your cholesterol level actually goes up. So,
interesting.
So does your triglycerides, you know, but that's something we'll go into more depth in the book I'll reference to, where I'm going to go into more detail on sort of the biochemistry if you're interested in more of those details. So
perfect. And considering the times and everybody, you know, concerned about their immunity, and how can we relate keto to our immune system? Can it help it, hurt it? Is there any links?
Yeah, so it's fascinating in terms of our immunity, I had never looked into this before until we're in this current situation.
Right.
I might have heard indirectly in research that it benefits the immune system because if your ketones are high, your blood sugar usually is reciprocally lower. And we know that the lower your blood sugar is, the better your immune system works. What I found in looking in the research just in the past week is that, in fact, ketosis itself actually enhances not only your immune system, but it enhances your immune system's block of viral infections. So literally viruses can't reproduce as easily with the ketone levels higher. Now, I want to be very clear, there's not enough research yet that has actually looked at like the coronavirus we're dealing with right now, but in just before we went live, I did see some stuff from back in the 2006 timeframe when the SARS outbreaks. Those were actually coronaviruses, and there is some studies that were done there that showed some, for instance, people with ketoacidosis, which is, of course, those people are at risk for other reasons, but they saw that the virus couldn't be as effective in attaching to cells when there was a high ketone level. The other thing that came up in the research was sort of the opposite thing, and that is that when your glucose is high, it helps the virus. So viruses, to replicate, it's a very metabolically demanding process. They hijack your cell, and they have your cell start to replicate itself, and then it's making more viral particles that then ends up transmitting to other people. The glucose is necessary for those viruses to replicate. And so people with hyperglycemia or high blood sugar, and we already see this now in the data, people with uncontrolled diabetes or hyperglycemia have a worse prognosis. And it makes sense because of course, the suppression of your immune system, and the virus can get more energy from the extra glucose. So it sounds like a win-win in my opinion. I'm like, well, I'm glad. I guess I'm going to make sure I'm sticking in ketosis for the next while. And there are many other things that affect your immune system, but it's very good to know that, you know, basically everything kind of whittles down to the ketogenic diet having so many health benefits besides the weight loss. It's just a win-win. The negative downside, of course, is that anytime we try to change our diet, it's really hard.
And so if I'm a viewer listening to this, I'm like, well, that sounds really great, but how do I get into ketosis? Like, I don't know enough. I don't know what to eat. Is there a diet plan? Like, what are the steps that we can take to get into ketosis? And I think our program will help you accomplish that, because you're going to be highly supported.
So besides those diet plans that are way off base, and scoot in just, you don't want to be on camera. Dawn wants me to be the only one on camera. There you are. I don't want to look like I'm just talking to some unknown person. Where was I?
So we want to get into ketosis. How are we going to do that? How is our program going to support that?
Yes. So I guess there's a couple things. One is to start the diet effectively, you need to obviously have a plan and to know what it looks like. So I mentioned those percentages. Now, it's hard to take percentages of macronutrients, carbs, proteins, fats, and then immediately think, oh, this is how I need to eat. So that's partly why we have this program, is to give you a template and to help guide you in a personal way. Now, one of the reasons the ketogenic diet was never popular and it was kind of fringe is because to keto adapt, even if you have all the information and have good intentions, there's a couple of physiological things that are going to happen. And fasting, if you've ever fasted, you know what this is like. It's a decline in energy. Now, I'm going to tell you the negatives, and then I'm going to tell you how we're going to prevent those, by the way. So, but you'll see the tremendous energy slumps in some people, lethargy, fatigue, nausea, lightheadedness, muscle
Is that because
cramps.
we're detoxing from the glycogen, or
I mean, you know, a lot of it is like a drug withdrawal effect. Your body
sugar
has been programmed and so used to using sugar as energy,
Yep.
you suddenly take it away. The machinery has gotten lazy and it doesn't know how to then burn fat.
Right.
It takes a little while.
That makes sense.
They call it the keto flu.
Mm-hmm.
And this was researched and studied way back. So when, you know, there was the expedition that went into the Arctic North in the 1800s, I think, to look that up again, where there was the first real physician from I think it was a lost expedition. It might have been a British ship that was lost. So they sent a group up into the North Canadian Arctic, and they had guides. These were the Inuits, the local Eskimos, and there was a physician that was with them, a European, and he documented that as they arrive and they have all their provisions and Western foods and all that, and they said within weeks, you know, of course they ran out,
Right.
and the expedition continued, and they ended up surviving for months with the guides, eating the hunted game, you know, they hunted, it was seafood and essentially meat and fat is all they ate. What happened was he documented the keto flu. That's where I was going to it. A lot of the guys, they thought they were dying. And what happened was within 3 to 5 to 6, 7 days, they suddenly became alive again, resilient, and were better.
Feeling
you know,
better,
they
probably.
had a lot of
Yeah.
health benefits that he documented, and it was interesting. Anyway, so to the point, though, is that we can prevent it with a couple of ways that we know now. One is hydration, adequate salt intake, and of course exogenous ketones.
Right.
Beginning by supplementing with ketones and MCT is a good combo. You will, in most cases, prevent the flu. Not only that, but you curb those withdrawals, the cravings. Now I want to be clear, that a keto flu. It's not the viral flu, just to be
Right.
So, and that support that we're going to offer, not try to offer, we will have that available. We'll go through those points. If you have more questions, chime in, but do we want to go more into the keto versus glucose? I think I think you covered that
really well, yeah.
Okay.
And then my experience with the keto flu is I didn't have it at all because I used exogenous ketones, so I bypassed all that. I'm all about like taking the easy route.
Yeah, and that was my
I don't want to
situation.
suffer.
And
Yeah.
I guess maybe we can tell more of our story, but I'll say real quick that in this office, in fact, is I discovered the keto diet by trying the exogenous ketones first. And it was the physical benefits that I felt right away led me to then start taking them every day and then investigate the diet. And it was like I just transitioned. I didn't, there was some habits and things you think, I mean, honestly, I was a granola junkie. I liked bread, although I didn't eat a lot at that point. I was kind of a paleo. I was paleo, except I liked granola. So late at night, I mean.
Right.
And so what happened is that it curbed those cravings. I didn't have the keto flu, and I just started to shift the diet. And so, you know, it's not all or nothing. You can start to adapt and do the diet without being necessarily strict. But which will lead to some of the other stuff. If you don't follow a program that has you looking at the diet macros, using a tracking app, checking your ketone levels, many people try and fail because they actually don't get into ketosis.
Right,
So,
and they think they're eating the ketogenic foods and they're actually not.
right, yes. So it's not just, I'm going to cut out carbs. Sometimes people are like, well, and that might be a very beneficial thing to do, is to cut out sugar and bread.
You're right.
That's one of the reasons the paleo diet has been popular, and there's a lot of good benefits of that. Paleo, though, of course, allows certain foods that also don't allow you to go into ketosis. So
True.
This is, in my opinion, I actually think the healthy ketogenic diet is a better true paleo diet in most cases because of the way, you know, people that ate in a Paleolithic way, they weren't eating pineapple and strawberries and mango and what else is in there? I mean, and it's not just slabs of steak either, right? It's not an all meat diet. It's not that you're sitting and just eating coconut oil. It's actually a lot less fat than you think, because fat is such a concentrated source of calories. You quickly can reach those macros to get you enough nutrition.
Right. So should we go over the program details a little bit?
Let's do that. And I don't know how legible it is. This is my wonderful handwriting, but we just kind of laid out A, B, C, D through F, and we can go through that. So you want me to walk through?
Sure.
Okay. The program, so we are going to start with a keto health survey. So this is something electronic that you just fill out. It's a pretty extensive health intake, actually, that covers things pertinent to how we make sure that your metabolism is going to utilize the ketogenic diet effectively. So it'll include that online. You fill that out. I'll analyze that, and Dawn and I will be taking that information and help to customize your diet specifically. One thing I should have noted earlier, and I'll just say it now, is that the diet, even with those ideal macros, is that there's a little trial and error going on. And that's why we're going to be checking some things. And so for someone who's, say, maybe a little weight loss they need, and they're an athlete or extremely active, that depending on your age or male or female, your macros may need to be adjusted a little bit. So it's not a one-size-fits-all.
Right.
So that's what the health survey helps us identify. So I'll diet analyze that, and we'll do a health assessment. Now, some of my patients or people who do want to do the keto diet have hormone imbalances or another health condition. If you had like pre-diabetes, we want to screen for those, because there's some tools that will really help. Most of those conditions are greatly benefited by the keto diet, but it helps to have that medical assessment. This could end up resulting in some additional lab testing, which I would do and recommend for you as well. That would be kind of extra, or at least not everyone would need testing, but some could benefit from it. We do body composition testing with the impedance measurements that you stand on in office. Coupled with that is the home scale, right?
Right.
That you can have as an option. So we take those measurements, because the key with the ketogenic diet is that it's not weight loss as much as fat loss, and it helps to maintain and build muscle. And so you might have a scale telling you that your weight's only going down by a little bit, but in reality you've burned quite a bit of fat. You've just built some muscle and maintained it. Most diet plans, you lose muscle and water, and you don't lose fat. And so we measure it. We're going to be checking that weekly in the check-ins that are included. And then I've mentioned this whole ketone testing, and that is something that we do in office. You could do it at home if you'd like to have one of the testers, and we'll monitor that, because if you're not getting ketone levels to come up, we need to tweak the diet a little bit and figure out why. It does check glucose and ketones. Those are two numbers you want to look at the same time, of course. We'll do group support, so it'll be streamed live. We have Facebook group that'll be specific for those who are doing the Keto Success Program. And you're quite live. I mean, I'll be checking that regularly. Dawn will be on there. We can answer questions. And this should probably have been up near the top, but we have a booklet/book guide. It's my goal in putting this together was that it was going to be it was simple enough to not have to read a 200-page hardback about how to do the keto diet and all the benefits. So I'll of course reference, and there's a lot of great books out there that you can read, but this is going to be a really straightforward why, the hows, and some of the meal guides. Now, we also talked about actual in-person group meetings. Those are going to have to be on hold, obviously, until we see this resolve, which it will.
Right.
And we will be doing those. The shopping trips, we're going to be doing that. What I'd like to do, if we can't do it as a group, is that I might do it virtually. You know, we could stream a video where it's just walking the aisles of Costco, for instance. Now, I'll also be creating these videos online, not like this one. This is an intro video, but more of a kind of a detailed how-to and different topics related to the ketogenic diet. Those will be regularly posted and linked to Facebook, YouTube, and anywhere else we can give you access to that. So So when you join this, you'll have access to all those things. We're talking about 4 weeks of this. I believe you need at least 3 to 4 weeks to really get, one is a habit, a new habits in your life, and also to see those changes. And the goal, this is a diet that you should be able to stick with, at least to alternate on over the course of a year, or even stick with exclusively. You can take a break on a weekend, or you're going on a vacation. The goal, of course, isn't to go off the rails. It's just that you can increase your carb intake a little bit now and then. It just is a great fallback diet to be able to get back on track.
Right.
Which leads, I should also mention that, you know, one of our things for analyzing you individually is if somebody's an athlete, this isn't just about weight loss. Don and I, we still didn't maybe share some of the details of our story, but, you know, I'm over 50. When I started the ketogenic diet, I went from being kind of healthy, trying to slow the aging process down, to where I actually was stronger and faster on the bike and in races and all that stuff, and a number of other health benefits. And so it's not just about weight loss, because you gain muscle, you improve mental function, you reduce inflammation, and etc. I don't know, do you have any add to what you experienced?
My experience was, like I initially said, I easily dropped 10 pounds without even trying, and I naturally was drawn to eating fats and proteins. Like even today, bread isn't interesting to me, rice, pasta, I naturally am not drawn to those anymore. So it's easy. And then couple that, some of you know I'm fasting, and so couple the fasting with eating more proteins and fats, it's super easy.
Right. Yeah.
But I didn't get here overnight.
And it's, I have to, you know, I was kind of a nutrition nerd in my late 20s, and which is ironic. I went through the whole 80s, 90s of the fat phobia. I was like, you know, 20-something and on a fat-free diet. Now, it's funny because I reflect on that, and I remember how I would still had certain cheats, and it was, so I actually was using olive oil, and I would still use nut butters, and I love peanut butter. So it wasn't, you know, totally phobic. But it's interesting is that I inherently just knew I needed some fat in some way. But, you know, I did that for a few years, and, you know, I think a very low-fat, high-plant diet, vegan-like diet, is a very good detoxifying diet to do now and then, maybe once a year, maybe twice a year. In fact, you can do keto vegan. I'm not an advocate for veganism simply because so many people actually don't get enough of those phospholipids, like to make in the cholesterol and these types of proteins that you can only get from animal protein. So it's not a healthy, sustainable diet for many people, in my opinion. So I think it's based on good evidence. There's very few indigenous populations that ever thrived on the face of the earth that were on a very kind of now it's a very, well, I don't want to get too much in veganism, but I've seen the reports and seen those cases of how depleted some of those people can become. You can do it, you just need to be aware of certain supplementation and things like that. But and there are lots of posts about vegan keto people, and that can work. You just got to make sure that you're getting enough of certain nutrients. But yeah, this is the first diet change that I've had since probably my nutrition degree in naturopathic medical school, that, you know, kind of refined into what I thought was that whole foods diet. And now I've realized that, you know, what we've been taught about the need for grains and starches is largely not accurate. You know, we do not, you know, by the way, kids can do this, elderly people can do it. It's, you know, actually we didn't talk about cancer, but I'm very excited about what the ketogenic diet can offer those who either want to prevent cancer or even dealing with it. In my opinion, almost every cancer that I'm aware of, and even those patients, would benefit greatly by doing this. That documentary, Fat, they talk about the epilepsy, and Abrams, the producer, I forgot his first name, his son, the Charlie Foundation, was born a very severe epileptic child, and after, unfortunately, too much of a delay in the regular medical system, he on his own discovered the ketogenic diet. Overnight changed his family's life, his son's life, who would have ended up probably dying by now, but now is like he's a college grad and he teaches school and plays the piano. So it has application for specific conditions, but for the rest of us, it's a variation of normal that our primitive ancestors had to use based on availability.
Right.
So whether it was hunting and storing kinds of foods that they needed, or even going without food, you go into ketosis. So our bodies were designed to do that. Now we get, you get sugar at every street corner in foods now, and you never run out.
Right.
And at a time like this, you know, there is, again, no, I would never want a viral epidemic to ever be, you know, on our doorstep. But we do learn things from trials, and I hope that this is a wake-up for people who aren't taking care of themselves and their health. It's unfortunate, but our medical system is overwhelmed with people where lifestyle choices have led to their health situation. And the vast majority of health problems that we face are largely due to whether it's drug abuse, nicotine, excess sugar. I think excess sugar is kind of the one that gets the free pass. It hasn't been vilified as much as it should be. And of course, it's unfortunately our food industry and health professionals often don't help patients, empower them to be able to make changes.
Right.
So.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Graves. So in closing, if you are interested in our Keto Success Program, please head to our website, www.zaloliving.com. You can take this keto health survey, and thank you to those people who have already taken it. We'll be reaching out to you, and give us a call, 509-922-9909, and or head to the website and we'll connect. Awesome. Thank you guys. Have a great day.